and today we're going to be making some vegan ricotta cheese, which looks something like this. This is a very new recipe to me, but it's been very successful. It's absolutely lovely stuff. A lot easier than the mozzarella cheese that I made recently. But you will need probably a little bit more specialist equipment. I've put together a shopping list on pizzaislovely.com/ricotta, and it will show you all the little bits and bobs that you need. So first, you'll definitely need one of these, or this is a Kitchen Ninja, or there's things like NutriBullets, something with one of these cups that will allow you to create an extremely well integrated almond milk. Also need a decent digital kitchen thermometer. Ideally, some of these things, which are little cheese molds. Now these will give you a firmer cheese that's better drained than if you just use a bowl. If you don't want to shell out for these though, you can just totally use normal kitchen bowl, or let's face it, most of us have got these little glass ramekins kicking around from puddings several years ago. So those are the main fancy bits that you need. Everything else you've probably got. So let's start by making the milk. So what I've got here is 500 grams of water. That goes in first. Next up, you might recognise this from my last post, dextrose powder. That acts as a sweetener that doesn't taste of sugar, so it will allow this milk to be a lot more sort of dairy tasting. Now we put 3 teaspoons into the water. And then you want some fine sea salt. You can grind some flakes up if you want, but for dissolving into water, this stuff is better. So sea salt. And then the last ingredient is ground almonds. It's worth shopping around. Find the best priced ones in the UK are from Sainsbury's. You get a significant 500 gram pack for not too much money. And it's just a case of putting those carefully in. Now this is making a milk that's designed for cheese making. You'd put a little bit less of the almonds in if you were making a drinking version. We're trying to maximise our yield here. This is about as far as you can push. It's almost more like a cream when you've got this many nuts. Okay, so lid on. Into the Ninja. And on the Ninja, it's ultra blend setting. Alright, that's the noisy bit over. So you can see we've got a lovely thick milk, and it's surprising how white it goes when the ground almonds are sort of yellowy, but it's lovely. I forgot actually, there's another specialist bit of kit. Again, it's on that link that I shared earlier on. This is a nut bag. So this is an extremely fine mesh washable bag that you can use for straining. So this has got very, very small particles in, but we want to make sure that literally nothing passes into the milk other than the milk itself. There will be some grounds left over. So it helps to have a nice big jug, and you could do it straight into the bowl where we'll be heating the milk soon, but I find it a bit easier to do it into a jug first. And it's just a case of you pour it straight into the bottom. Hold it up like that. You can see it straining through. And once it slows down, that's when you need to get your hands dirty. So make sure you've got nice clean hands. And you sort of bring this together and give it a squeeze, gentle squeeze, increasing the pressure. And it will carry on coming out, so if you give it a little twist like that. Now it's important you do this step, you make this milk yourself. If you buy some of the popular brand ones from supermarkets, they're full of loads of stabilizers and things that are going to affect the texture of the cheese. Making it yourself, you have full control over how it's going to respond and behave. It also brings the price down to something that's a bit more affordable. Okay, pretty much there. So if I unravel the bag, we're left with a good amount of this stuff here, which is the spent almond. Now that's totally edible, and you can do lots of cool stuff with it, which I might cover off on another video, but for now I'm just going to put it to one side. Now I'm today going to be giving you all the measurements for a single batch, but I'm actually going to cook up a triple size batch because I want loads of it. So what I'll do is I'll repeat this process another 2 times, and I don't know, I might fast forward the video or just cut straight through. Yeah, once I finish that, then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we're back. So that's 3 of the almond milks done, so quite a lot. What you've got to remember is a lot of the water is not going to end up in the final recipe. So the next step is we're going to pour it into a large pan, one to comfortably accommodate what you've got. We want every single little bit that we possibly can get. And it's a very good idea to have a silicone spatula for things like this. Again, there's links to those. So we're going to start heating it up. And I'll probably speed this footage up a little bit when as we try and get to the point. Now what we need the digital thermometer for, so if I check the temperature of this milk now, it is at 22 degrees it's basically our room temperature. And if you make a note of that, you know what your room temperature is. We're going to bring this up to 85 degrees. I mean, you don't have to worry too much about it, but we're going to heat this up gradually, checking every minute until we get to 85 degrees. We do not want it to boil, and if it goes over 90, you definitely want to let it just cool down a little bit, turn the heat off. Whilst you're waiting for that to come up to temperature, you need to measure out 15 grams of apple cider vinegar. So I've got 45 in here because I've got 3 batches. But yeah, the apple cider vinegar is going to be used to create our curds. And you can use regular cider vinegar, white wine vinegar, lemon juice will even work, that's fine. I love using apple cider vinegar in most of my cooking. It's got a nice flavour and it's good for you. Okay, so this is now at temperature. I can take readings all around the pan and everything's over 85 degrees and everything's under 90 degrees. So we turn the heat off at this point, and it's simply a case of adding the apple cider vinegar and then just giving it a little stir. Now that's been mixed in, slow part of the recipe, you just put a lid on it because we don't want too much to evaporate off. That keeps it hygienic, and we're just going to leave this for as long as it takes to come back down to that original temperature the milk was at, which is 22 degrees in my house. Okay, so it's about 4 hours later, and the milk is now back to 22 degrees, just a smidgen over, but the pan's very cold to the touch and it's at room temperature. Now if I move this there through the milk, I can feel resistance. There are some solids in there. They're not giant lumps, but they're in there. And this next step is to separate those solids from the liquid. So I recommend use a jug and fold the top of the nutmeg over like that. You can see that. So you've got both hands spare for decanting. And just carefully pour it and try and get it to hit the bottom. Hopefully you can see some of those solids. So what I'll do is I'll start lifting it out now. And what I've got here is a bowl, glass bowl and a sieve. I'll transfer the bag like that into the sieve. And then I'll get the remainder. Now it's a waiting game again. So what we do is gather the bag up and give it little shakes of encouragement. And gravity's going to do the work for us. So I'm going to cover that with the tea cloth and place it in the refrigerator, and then when it's no longer dripping at all, then I'll come back and we can make the finished cheese. Okay, so it's about 4 hours since we put this in the fridge. There's no more dripping coming out of it. I've actually emptied the bowl underneath a few times, and you can see the amount of liquid that's come out is loads, absolutely loads, and there's some more in there as well. So what I'm going to do is transfer the majority of it straight into here by inverting the bag first. So upside down and into this bowl. Just move that out of the way. Give it a shake, and this is our ricotta curd. Just move that out of the way. So that's what we've got. It's quite a good yield there. Now, to get all of it out, I recommend turning it inside out and having a nice plastic chopping board. If you get these, expose these corners. This stuff's a bit sticky, and there's no way of doing this without getting your hands dirty. And then I use a bench scraper on these plastic ones. You don't want to use a metal one, obviously, because you don't want to damage this bag. But you can then lightly just move this down and do the same on the other side. Just to get any that's stuck in the corners out of the way. You can wash that in a minute. And then use the scraper to get that last bit out. Okay, so rinse my hands quickly. I'm now ready to fill our cheese mould. So it's a good idea to have a bit of kitchen towel and a little plate ready. And what I do is I just fold this once and then twice and place it underneath to create an absorbent layer that the cheese is going to go on top of. We're going to leave this to set in the fridge, and some moisture will come out of these holes on the bottom and the sides. You'll need a teaspoon handy as well, and you just go for it basically. You take that out and then press in a sort of, press the sharp pointy end down to make sure it's going into the corners first. It gets easier as you go up the mould because you're trying to not squeeze it completely through the holes. And then at this point you can lift it up and just look around and see where it hasn't quite hit the bottom. So there's a little patch just there. And just squeeze that down. Looking pretty good. A bit there. And a little bit there. Squeeze that down a bit more. Once that initial bit's in, then you can just start heaping it in. Do the same again, using the pointy end of the spoon rather than the flat, like that. Squeeze it down. This down. And it's, quite frankly, I think this is amazing that this has been made out of nuts. With, you know, it takes time, but it doesn't take a massive amount of effort, and the results are insane. I don't know if you can see the get a sense of the texture. Can you see it's got that springy sort of wobbly vibe that lovely ricotta does have. And you're not limited to using this just as a ricotta. Another thing you can do that's really cool, I haven't quite perfected the recipe yet, but if you get some of those little guides for rolling pastry accurately, and then put a sheet of cling film on your work surface, put the guides on the side so that a rolling pin can go on top, lightly oil the rolling pin, and then you can put the cheese in there and make a perfect shape, like sort of rectangular shape. You can then sprinkle herbs and chopped garlic in the middle and roll it up like a French roulade style cheese. Absolutely delicious. And pretty much any soft cheese. There's some ideas I've not yet tried yet, like turning this into a soft goat's cheese, which I'll keep to myself for now because they might not work, but I've got some ideas. So that's pretty much full to the brim, and I've got plenty left over for another one that will be probably slightly smaller. Right, just trying it now. It's absolutely delicious. It's quite frankly a miracle if this makes it through as a set cheese. So there you go. Can you see it filled up? It's really hard with this camera angle. Let me hold it. So what we're going to do is place a little bowl over the top so that this is airtight, and that's going to go in the fridge overnight, during which time it will firm up even more. But it's edible at this point, just taking out the mould a little bit hard. Tomorrow it's just a case of turning it over and taking the mould out. So I'll be back tomorrow and I'll do the great reveal. Okay, we're back, and the cheese has been refrigerating overnight. So let's have a look at it. So taking the bowl off, and if I tip this, I don't know if you can see that bit of kitchen towel there. There's some water on the surface, so that's the last of it drained out, and it's much firmer on top. That's lovely. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've prepared, you can use another plate, I've got a board here just because it looks pretty, and I've cut out a square of just normal parchment paper, give it a quick crumple, and that allows you to keep it nice and flat. I'm going to get another piece of kitchen towel. I'm just going to quickly place this on top like that just for a second, just to drain any excess off, and then you just quickly invert and up, and that's it. I'm rather pleased with that. So as long as you keep it airtight, it's going to last for probably about a week in the fridge. You know, it's a pretty nice thing, really. So let me know if you make it, and enjoy eating your vegan ricotta. Bye.